I drove 5 hours, hiked 2.5, woke up at 5 a.m. just to take one shot. And for a moment,
I'm gonna go.
I thought I completely missed it. It all started with me going to pee. I was at Auckland's airport, and I saw this photo printed on the toilet's entrance. A reflection of this perfectly symmetrical volcano. I don't know how I wasn't aware of its existence after months of living in New Zealand, but either way, I found out it was called Mount Taranaki. And when I Googled it, I bumped into this other photo, and I was like, I don't have much time left in New Zealand, and I really don't want to leave without having recreated that shot. But before setting out, there was a few things I needed to sort out. Number one, I know that's Mount Taranaki, but where exactly was that photo taken? Well, that wasn't hard. Logistic number two. To recreate this photo, I needed three things. A clear summit, no wind on the lake, and the first light of sunrise hitting the mountain. Miss any of those and the shot doesn't work. And there's a catch. It's a 5-hour drive from where I was living, followed by about a 2.5-hour hike. So the smartest option was to stay the night as close as possible. And luckily, there's a hut about 10 minutes away from the Tarns, run by the Department of Conservation. And you can book one of the beds for the beautiful price of 25 New Zealand dollars. I checked the weather for the days I had available, and partially cloudy, not ideal, but right around dawn, there was a small window of clear sky. So, yeah, there was hope.
At some point, I'm gonna need a bigger backpack than this. It's already full, and there's no drone and no cinema camera yet.
When am I gonna learn to travel light? Never, because I'm a videographer. There's a reason photographers obsessed over Mount Taranaki. It's an almost perfectly symmetrical volcano, standing completely alone, surrounded by this perfect ring of forest. It almost feels like it was designed specifically for photography. At 2,518 meters tall, it's also the second highest mountain in New Zealand's North Island. That weekend was Easter weekend, and the parking lot was already packed. The hut we had booked was now fully booked too, so it seemed like everyone in New Zealand had the exact same idea that weekend. It's 2 p.m. It's cloudy, so that's not a good sign if tomorrow we want to recreate that shot, but fingers crossed it's gonna be clear at some point at dawn, and we're kicking off. The hike itself wasn't too bad. About 2 hours of walking uphill, mostly through native bush with occasional glimpses of Egmont National Park.
It is dead silent in here.
It's a mix between creepy and relaxing. Now, I'm gonna take a selfie with my favorite sign. Here goes. Yes, baby, hello! Woo! That is why I am now forced to use Google Earth 3D imagery. Better than nothing. Eventually, we reached the hut. It was built only 5 months ago, so it was incredibly new with views that would make anyone relax instantly. This is our room, and I think we're gonna pick these bunk beds right here. And since we knew that at dawn the reflection spot would be packed with people, we decided to head out to the Tarns and try to find out the exact angle of the photo. I can confirm that this is a teeny tiny pond, and kudos to the first photographer who took a photo like that and made it look like something incredibly big with the reflection and everything. And I've seen kids' pool's bigger than this. At Pouakai Tarns, I tried a few different spots, but the clouds just wouldn't let me see the volcano at all. So I waited, standing there in the cold wind, hoping the clouds would give me the tip of the mountain, so I could line up the shot. And eventually, it happened. The summit appeared. I quickly set up my tripod where I thought the photo had been taken, and luckily it was the right spot. And now the plan was simple. Arrive early enough in the morning to claim that spot. We had dinner with a pretty incredible view and one of those sunsets that you don't forget. Unfortunately though, I would also spend the night I wouldn't forget. In the morning, we weren't the first ones there, but somehow nobody had taken my spot. So I set up the tripod exactly where I had the day before and waited. Slowly, the sky started to brighten and the first light began creeping towards the side of Mount Taranaki. Clouds were still moving across the summit, but you could tell there'd be small gaps. And in the meantime, more and more people started arriving. Every minute that passed just built more pressure. I could feel people wanting to stand exactly where my tripod was, but I had to hold my ground because those first rays of sunlight were getting closer. Then the moment almost arrived. The sun started peeking over the horizon, and right then my lens began to fog up. The image wasn't coming out clear, and at the same time people were stepping into the frame to take their own photos. So the challenge had suddenly become harder than I expected. The clouds were clearing, but it wasn't going to last long. I wiped the lens one more time. The wind started shaking the reflection on the water, so I knew I had to rush to get my turn in the frame. At that point, it was a now or never situation. Now, it doesn't look exactly like the photo I saw online. The reflection isn't perfectly still. The mountains hiding behind a few clouds. My ISO was way higher than I wanted, and you can still see a bit of lens fog on the side of the image. But standing there that morning, watching the sun slowly light up Mount Taranaki, surrounded by a bunch of strangers who all woke up at 5 a.m. chasing the exact same moment, I realized something. The final shot was never really the goal. The experience of trying to capture it, that's the part that actually stays with you. Chasing this shot was undoubtedly one of the most memorable experiences I've had in New Zealand so far. And if you're still watching, I couldn't encourage you more to do the same. To get out there and chase sunrises, and beaches, mountains, sunsets, and just anything that makes your heart pump. I'm also curious to hear any stories you might have about trying to recreate a shot, and I'd love to read that in the comments. I'll see you in the next adventure.